have a slightly different process in the way that I approach image making and the visual arts. Before I studied art, I studied journalism, and I see art as having a similar function in the way that it communicates ideas, but without being burdened by any type of sense of objectivity.
I wouldn't call myself an artist, but...
So I do a lot of research, but by the time it comes to creating a work, I'm pretty certain what it's going to look like as I start that journey of producing it. So it's slightly different in the way that we approach things, but it's also the different functions of our materials and what we do to communicate what we want to say.
But at the same time, like, you do have to have a bit of trial and error, right? Like knowing some of the stuff you go through to find the right vessel in which to put your ideas. Like you might not know at the start whether it's going to be a painting or installation or something.
These days I find the idea before I decide on the medium. So find the idea and then figure out the best way to communicate that idea. And mostly it's painting, to be honest, but it shifts around. It's been performance, it's been installation, it's been video, photography a lot, so all over the place really.
Has the process of making art and expressing yourself that way helped you understand your own culture and identity more?
Well, it's definitely given... Oh, do you want
to... To both of you.
Well, having a creative practice has certainly given me a platform that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So I found when I was younger and a little bit angrier in the way that I'd try and articulate myself, it was very difficult to communicate what I was trying to say. But for whatever reason, having an arts practice, people give it more time and are willing to be a little bit more generous in how they engage with the ideas that I'm trying to present.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my art, the poems that I write or the songs that I write are just vessels for my questions and uncertainty about the world and about myself. And a lot of those questions are related to my identity and my cultural heritage, my relationship, my very strained relationship with Islam, my relationship with Borneo and Southeast Asia in general. And so, yeah, I think they've helped me unpackage some of these questions, but usually more questions result. But they don't just exist within a vacuum. Like, as artists and poets and stuff, we live in communities. So I think that my art has helped me connect with my culture and with people in Borneo by using poetry as a means to meet people and to hear their stories over there. It's not just something, I'm not just locked away like I don't know, it's someone in a tower, as I said before. I connect with people through that and with audiences, and I find that really, really exciting.
One of my favorite memories with Omar was when we traveled through Makassar in Indonesia to South Sulawesi to go to my ancestral homelands, but also to visit a whole bunch of places on the way. And Omar had been there before and introduced me to a whole bunch of people. And I remember specifically this amazing poet who had written all the poems in the Indonesian version of 10 Things I Hate About You. and he had some really wise words. He was a spun out guy.
Yeah, he said that he had 2 poetry books per breakup. Like that was his old steez. And I've tried to follow that example.
Formative years were overshadowed by the war on terror and what that meant and how that meant we were perceived. And perception is something I talk a lot about in my practice. Initially, to give a very quick anecdote, up until 2011, all I did was paint pictures of my friends, just like pretty pictures of my friends. And then I painted Walid Ali for the Archibald here. And didn't have any type of public profile at all, but the combination of my name, Abdul Abdullah, and my subject, Walid Ali, really, really upset a section of Australian society enough that they would go out of their way to find my email address and send me really nasty, vitriolic things telling me where to go. And it was a bizarre experience, especially in the context of the Archibald Prize, which is something, I was living in Perth at the time especially. It's a big, fun show, but to experience that and to have it visited upon you was a really stark reminder of that difference. And mind you, that's not when I first discovered my difference. That's from the beginning, really. That even being a teenager and realizing that you'll be with a group of friends, but you're the one that's treated like a threat by the police or by an authority, and how that shifts how people treat you and how you treat yourself And initially, I know that I think it's a really common experience that when I was a teenager in the early 20s, it would lead to a lot of dysfunctional behavior and like antisocial behavior. And it wasn't until finding my platform and finding a voice and really thinking about it and studying it that I could sort of articulate myself and funnel those energies in more positive ways. It's like they teach you the education, the ABCs of self-determination, autonomy, belongingness, and competence, and that all comes out of being part of a creative community and contributing or being involved in a creative community. So that's what we really want, I think. And what Omar was saying about building communities across smaller creative communities from music, art, poetry, literature, like across the board. I'm only naming a couple of things, but that's what builds a sense of belongingness, which is an essential component of being a whole person.